Spring Breakthrough was one of the best Dynamite episodes in AEW history. Last night was an absolute blast. This is my review on their historic milestone episode of Dynamite on Screw the Script. Last night, AEW Dynamite Spring Breakthrough in front of an amazing crowd in Boston. Boy, just round of applause, honestly. They deserve it. Tony Khan put on one of the best Dynamite episodes ever. Not just of the year, easily the best Dynamite of the year. 100%, not even close. But aside from this year even, this blew out every single Dynamite in 2024 in my mind. And it's up there with the likes of some of the Dynamites in the early couple of years in AEW that had instant classic matches. Oh man. I mean, I want to say I don't know where to start, but just because I'm filled with so much joy and emotion after watching last night, I'm just going to go right down the line from the beginning of the episode all the way down to the main event. Starting with one of the best women's matches I have ever seen free on TV or streaming if you watch it on Max like myself. One of the best women's matches you will ever see where you didn't have to pay a dime to watch it. Unless you pay for Max, I guess. But the point being is this was not even on a pay-per-view or PLE for WWE standards is what they call it. Good God. You can say what you want about Mercedes Moné. You can love her. You can hate her. I get it. She's a very polarizing character. But you cannot deny her in-ring athleticism and talent after watching that masterclass performance that her and Athena put on at Spring Breakthrough. I can't think off the top of my head anyways, I can't think of the last time that I watched a female division wrestling match just on a weekly episode of any pro wrestling show. I can't. It's been a minute at least. I can't off the top of my head think of anything. I mean, there was like half a dozen near falls, so many great reversals that these two ladies hit each other with. And then just like that ending, you were like, damn, like I did pick Mercedes to move on to the finals. I picked Jamie Hayter on the other side, so we'll see if I'm right on that. So far, I've been perfect for both the men and women's brackets. But they need to have Athena on AEW television more. I get that she is the ROH champ and she is dominating as such, but she needs to be called up. She needs to be on weekly television after that match last night. You have so many amazing moments from that match last night. You've got, Mercedes getting hit with 3 consecutive power bombs by Athena. She slipped behind and nailed Athena with her backbreaker. God, what else happened? The Death Valley Driver. The double knee strike through the ropes. I mean, there's just so many things that went on in that first match to make note of. It blew every match out of the water. Now, from Raw is what I'm trying to say. Now, the only reason why I bring that up is because this was a very special and important episode of Dynamite, a historic episode at that. And then this past Raw Monday night is still a very special episode of Raw, your go-home show before your biggest event of the year, WrestleMania, and yet you put on a stinker of an episode. The 4 matches only that you got, none of them were all that good, except the opening match with Bayley and Liv Morgan that ended on a botch. I mean, it did. And that was all you had? WWE, that's all you had for your go-home show. This show tonight on Dynamite, start to finish, was better. You could be the biggest WWE stickler fan And I don't know how you can say differently. I don't know how you can watch both and say, nah, I still preferred that 2.5 hour yeet episode of Raw that had 4 insignificant matches on it only. And no Cody Rhodes and no John Cena. Come on. We saw so many things go on outside of wrestling, and a lot of people like to complain, oh, AEW is only focused on wrestling. They can't build stories. No, they have had a lot of good stories these last few months. All of 2025, the ending of 2024, women's feud of the year with Toni Storm, Mariah May, a long-standing feud between Hangman and Swerve. We saw Hangman get interviewed last night backstage by Renee. We saw the Young Bucks and Okada interrupt. We saw that, the tension between them, long-term storytelling. He's been around with the Bucks since day one. Stop lying to yourselves. You just don't watch the product weekly if you don't see how they intertwine these storylines that have been going on forever. I mean, we know, the people that watch it weekly like me know that for years now, back and forth, Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson and Hangman have had a rocky relationship, dating all the way back to when Hangman and Omega were tag champs and they faced the Bucks in that feud. That was one of the best feuds in AEW, but there's been a ton of them. That dates all the way back to that. And that was just an amazing segment backstage, because if you know sort of situation. You felt that tension. Then we get on to Hangman's match, and just as I had hoped, thank God Tony Khan didn't drop the ball, and the wild card was indeed, my guess, Josh Alexander. And he came out, I think it was his original Walking Weapon song. If not, it's very similar. Great nickname, great presence, great presentation. He is solid in the ring. He's everything AEW needs for an in-ring competitor, because he very much is the opposite of what they primarily have in AEW, which is a lot of guys who are extremely athletic and do, off the top rope stuff. Nothing wrong with that, but it's always good to have variety in your promotion, and Josh Alexander very much adds that. Him and Hangman had a solid match. He lost eventually to Hangman, but he didn't actually lose. It was one of those matches where he was showcased so well, much like Kevin Knight when he made his first match against Jay White, where at the end of it, if you didn't know if you didn't know who Kevin Knight was, now you knew him. If you never followed TNA for the last about 8-10 years or so, something like that, however long Josh Alexander was over there, now you know who he is. He is great. And there was a lot of things last night that proved his greatness. Like that rolling lariat that he hit him with. God, I took notes here. Paige moonsaulted onto Josh on the arena floor. That was an amazing spot. The cameraman, give him a raise, because that shot of Hangman jumping onto Josh Alexander, basically running alongside the crowd, phenomenal. Speaking of the crowd, holy hell, Boston, you are a fucking great crowd for pro wrestling. We all kind of knew that, but I'm so glad that Collision, which is this Thursday, not Saturday, going to be in front of another Boston crowd. They are going to be electric, and their crowd engagement for that spot, for that camera angle, it was like, you can't do better than that in a match. And so that was like the highlight moment of the match. What else did I write? Alexander has a solid ankle lock, reminiscent of Kurt Angle in his days in the WWE. One of the greatest of all time pound for pound wrestlers, in my opinion, was Kurt Angle. And Josh Alexander has some similarities to him. And we saw it. Like, he applied an ankle lock on Hangman. Sorry, I'm just kind of adjusting my mic here. What else did I put? They used the ropes very well. And then that ending, Paige essentially escaped the match rather than just winning the match. He escaped the match because he won on just a quick roll-up pin Alexander looked shocked, and it felt like Hangman escaped that match rather than just flat out winning. So it really put Josh Alexander over. And then after the match, you see Don Callis come out, and as Josh Alexander was out of the ring, he didn't decide to leave while Hangman was getting jumped. And then you saw Don Callis go up to him. I assume whatever he whispered into his ear was, hey, like, something along the lines of this, like, hey, like, I will give you $1,000 right now if you go in the ring and take out Hangman for us. Josh Alexander, being the character that he is, the character that he was in TNA, I don't know, didn't take much thought for him. He went in, attacked Hangman. I don't know if he's going to genuinely just be a flat-out heel going forward. I don't think he technically will be a part of the Don Callis family. I know a while back they had a promo where they showed an extra plate at the table, but I'm assuming that was supposed to just be Mark Davis because they had Mark Davis show up. That has kind of fallen flat, so maybe they will decide to replace Mark Davis with Josh Alexander. We'll see. But amazing segment, amazing debut. Let's move on to the next part of Dynamite. Backstage, we saw Christian Cage on screen with his little crew, Nick Wayne, the two having this like tension back and forth. And Christian Cage is playing such a good heel as like a devious father figure that is very toxic and manipulative. Because that's essentially what's going on. He's manipulating Nick Wayne. He was like, hey, like, let me talk to you how I want because of this. Like, I gave you this reward. Like, I got you into that tournament for New Japan, but, I'm still going to treat you like shit and you're going to accept it sort of situation. Obviously, at least in my mind, it's obvious that at some point in 2025, I think we are going to see Nick Wayne break out from Christian Cage and have a singles feud with Christian eventually. I think that'll be a good way to close out this whole patriarchy thing. I don't think it's something that Christian Cage is going to have forever as his gimmick. I would love to see him and Edge or Adam Copeland now one last time be a tag team and maybe even win the tag titles, although kind of segueing into the next part, the Gates of Agony challenged the Hurt Syndicate and lost. It was a good match, though. 4 big guys beating the shit out of each other, which you don't see too often in AEW. And not only that, but really no high flying whatsoever, which is also something that's not very common in AEW. This was yet another great match for Dynamite, for Spring Breakthrough last night. This really showcased their bigger men. It showed that as a promotion, they have gotten a lot better with balance in terms of their roster. They've added bigger guys with Lashley and Shelton. The Gates of Agony are getting a push. You've got Brian Cage and Lance Archer, although Cage is hurt right now. They're big guys getting a push. Big Bill, now that he's not stuck in the Jericho Vortex, he should get a big push. Like they're really starting to balance out their roster with big guys. They added Josh Alexander, who's a technical wrestler. Zack Sabre Jr. has been rumored to make an appearance soon, just because we're approaching Forbidden Door eventually. He's an amazing technical wrestler. I really miss Bryan Danielson because he is arguably the best ever technical pro wrestler, or he's top 5 at least. Great stuff. Great tag match. Better than it should have been because Gates of Agony are still relatively new for a lot of fans. They're growing on me. Bishop Khan, I believe was his name. He's from my home state of Minnesota. So I would like to see him utilized more. I think he's extremely athletic. He's got the build to be a legitimate star in AEW. So that's my quick coverage on those 2 segments. And then next we saw probably the most Attitude Era / ruthless aggression, like early 2000s era promo that we've seen in quite some time. When MJF comes out and tries to buy his way into the Hurt Syndicate by bringing out a bunch of women offering up his, what I would assume is a very expensive watch to Shelton. The really fun reaction that Shelton gave that made the whole crowd just laughed. I forgot how good Shelton is outside of this in the ring. He's very funny. Bobby Lashley as well, MVP. I really, again, just, storytelling. This has gone on for like a month now, a little over a month, where these guys are debating within each other, like, do we allow MJF to join the Hurt Syndicate? And this goes back to my point that I made earlier, where you can't say AEW struggles to tell stories now and do storytelling and things like that, because they are doing it so much better in 2025. And even the second half of 2024 is when they really started to amp it up and get better with it. And I think because we all know now that Bryan Danielson is helping with writing. We know Christopher Daniels has been helping with stuff like that. And Tony Khan all kind of just discussing. And I think lately it has all been working. It has all been hitting very well. Will Ospreay and Takeshita are absolutely phenomenal. That's just the best way I can sum up in one sentence how truly incredible Will Ospreay and Takeshita are. And good God, are they just timeless together in the ring. I could watch them wrestle a dozen times a year and I would not get sick of it. And the crazy part is, each match would feel different from the last and just be a banger after banger after banger after banger. Holy hell, does AEW have two bona fide legendary stars in AEW at a young age. Whenever AEW decides to have, if they decide to have a Hall of Fame 10, 15 years from now, these two guys have to be guys that are in question for AEW Hall of Fame. With the likes of, Jericho has been so pivotal for them. The Young Bucks, Omega, all these other staples. Darby Allin, although he's still relatively young, so it'd probably be 20 years from now. But you get the point. Like, when the match ended, I had to stand up and just like catch my breath. Because from start to finish, it was like riding the biggest theme park ride at a theme park. Like, it was just a roller coaster of emotions. So many near falls, so many counters, hidden blade. We saw what ultimately finished the match. One of my all-time favorite finishers in all of pro wrestling, which is the Stormbreaker. I just think it looks so damn cool. And it's been a minute since Ospreay has won a match just with the Stormbreaker. Takeshita looked great. Takeshita needs a push as well in 2025. I know he just came off of having the title that Omega beat him for. But when you realize that you have the talent that you have in Takeshita, he should never, for the rest of his career in AEW, or anywhere else for that matter, if he ever decides to leave, he should never be off to the side as just an afterthought. He has everything that you want in a pro wrestler. He's got the height, the build. He's got the in-ring ability. He is a great heel. The only thing that you can knock him on is promo skills. But again, he is extremely young, and he will eventually work on that. These two are probably going to have a very long-lasting feud in AEW. They already have one in Hangman and Swerve that has been, just coming and going here and there for a couple of years. And I really think you're building another. And then you got to throw in like Kyle Fletcher as well with Will Ospreay. And those three guys are the future of AEW. And then you throw in another young guy that just made his debut recently, Kevin Knight. Those four guys alone are great wrestlers to build AEW around for the long haul, for the future, for 10, 15 years from now. That was one of the best matches on Dynamite ever. If you did not see Spring Breakthrough last night, and you only want to spend 20, 30 minutes of maybe a single segment or part of the episode, if you don't have the time to watch all of it, at least watch that match. I think you are doing yourself a disservice if you go on in life and never watch the masterpiece of a match that was just put on last night by Ospreay and Takeshita. Ospreay picks up the win. He moves on to the finals in the men's bracket. I am still perfect in that bracket. And then I had Hangman ultimately winning it all, which now we see is going to be Ospreay and Hangman. We'll see what happens. We'll see if I'm right on that men's bracket. And now for the main event. Amazing main event. Mainly because we finally saw the Death Riders lose. They lost their trios titles last night to the Ops. They quickly wrote in story that Hook was injured backstage by the Death Riders. We all know he got a concussion last week, so he was out of this match. And then in comes Will Hobbs. The three of them beat the Death Riders. Solid main event. We saw this. I mean, the crowd went nuts. Seeing Jon Moxley get choked out by Samoa Joe, that is how you close out a Dynamite. That is how you close out what was one of the best shows that they have ever put on. And Will Hobbs, congrats to Will Hobbs. Very well deserving. He has only had one singles title in AEW. He had the TNT title about 2 years ago, I want to say, somewhere around there. And ever since then, he's just been very hot and cold. And now they finally have him with a belt around his waist again. He is very much deserving. He has been a workhorse since day one. Long callback here in this photo of, you may hate Jon Moxley right now in the Death Rider storyline, but you have to respect Jon Moxley, the character, the wrestler, the human being that he is outside of all this. He is the one, if you forgot, in this photo, kind of reminds you, he's the one that brought in Will Hobbs 5 years ago into AEW. Will Hobbs would not be here today where he is as 1/3 of the trio's champions right now if it weren't for Jon Moxley. So you got to give him his flowers, the both of them their flowers. Moxley for bringing him in, and Will Hobbs for being such a workhorse for 5 years in AEW. Great way to close out the show. We finally have new trios champs. Is this the beginning of the end of the Death Riders? I sure hope so. I think that Moxley will hold on to that title for just a little bit longer, and eventually drop it to either Hangman or Will Ospreay, who is one of them is going to win at Double or Nothing, because they have those two finals matches at Double or Nothing for the men and women's. And then whoever wins that at Double or Nothing, I think, will get into a feud with Mox that'll last until All In July and dethrone Mox, and the Death Riders can ride off into oblivion and never be in the spotlight again. That is what I want to see. Hopefully we see it. So that's all I really had on this episode of Screw the Script. Let me know down below what your favorite part was of Spring Breakthrough. I'm excited for the second half of it for Thursday night. AEW is having such a successful 2025, and I love to see it, and I want to continue to see it. Tony Khan, you put on a great show last night. Hopefully you put on a great repeat show for Collision Spring Breakthrough. This has been Maverick with Screw the Script. Thanks for watching.